Ever wondered how the historical timeline of Palestine unfolded? Today, we delve into the past to unravel the events that have shaped this land. Our journey will take us from the period of British occupation through the present reality under Israeli occupation and into the heart of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, a site of significant religious and political importance. We'll traverse times of peace and conflict and explore the rich tapestry of culture and history that defines Palestine. Now, let's embark on our historical journey. Before the British set foot in Palestine, it was a bustling hub linking Asia, Africa, and Europe. Nestled in the heart of the Ottoman Empire for centuries, Palestine throbbed with life and commerce, its heartbeat resonating across 3 continents. Agriculture, fishing, and trade were the lifeblood of its economy, with major cities such as Jerusalem, Nablus, and Haifa pulsating with vibrant commercial activity. But Palestine was more than just an economic nerve center. It was a spiritual sanctuary for Jews, Muslims, and Christians alike. Its sacred landscape was dotted with significant religious sites, including the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and the Mount of Olives, drawing believers from around the world. However, the winds of change were blowing across Palestine. The effects of European colonization began to ripple through the region, bringing with it an influx of Jewish immigrants. This wave of immigration stirred the calm waters of Palestine, causing social and economic tensions to surface. Political and economic pressures began to mount as the rift between the Palestinian population and Jewish immigrants widened. Despite these challenges, Palestine remained a melting pot of cultures, religions, and trade. Its rich tapestry of life was woven from the threads of diverse traditions, beliefs, and practices. Its streets echoed with the calls of merchants, the prayers of the devout, and the laughter of children. Its markets were filled with the scent of spices, the colors of textiles, and the chatter of bargaining. Yet beneath the surface, the tides were shifting. The tranquility of everyday life belied the simmering tensions that were beginning to bubble up. The influx of Jewish immigrants, driven by the Zionist movement, was causing friction with the local Palestinian population. This tension was a precursor to the challenges and conflicts that would come with the British occupation. As we can see, Palestine was a melting pot of cultures, religions, and trade. Its history is a testament to its resilience and diversity, a story of a land and its people navigating the currents of change and adversity. One cannot discuss the history of Palestine without mentioning the Al-Aqsa Mosque, a symbol of Islamic identity and Palestinian history. Our journey begins in 691 CE with the construction of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. This magnificent structure was built in East Jerusalem by the Umayyad Caliph Abd al-Malik ibn Marwan. It stands on the northern part of the Temple Mount, the site believed to be the location of the Second Temple, constructed by King Solomon in the 10th century BCE. As we move through the centuries, the Al-Aqsa Mosque has seen numerous developments and renovations. Expansions were made, the current dome was added, minarets were built, and various halls were introduced. These changes occurred throughout different Islamic periods, reflecting the evolving architectural styles and the mosque's growing importance. The Al-Aqsa Mosque has not only been a witness to architectural evolution, but has also been the stage for significant historical events. It has seen periods of Crusader rule, Mamluk governance, and Ottoman domination. Fast forward to the 20th century, and the mosque has become a site of political escalation and conflicts between Palestinians and Israelis, with numerous confrontations and tensions marking its history. Today, the Al-Aqsa Mosque faces ongoing challenges. Israeli authorities are attempting to exert full control over the mosque, restricting access with laws and security forces. Yet despite these struggles, the mosque remains a central issue in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, a source of continuous tension in the region. The Al-Aqsa Mosque is not just an architectural marvel or a witness to history. It holds a special place in the hearts of Muslims worldwide. As the third holiest site in Islam, after the Haram Mosque in Mecca and the Prophet's Mosque in Medina, it attracts Muslims from all corners of the globe. They come to visit, to pray, and to connect with a piece of their shared Islamic identity and Palestinian history. Despite the ongoing struggles, the Al-Aqsa Mosque remains a beacon of faith for Muslims worldwide. Aside from the Al-Aqsa Mosque, Palestine is home to other significant religious landmarks. One of these is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. This hallowed ground is one of the most sacred Christian sites in the world, believed to contain the sites of Jesus Christ's crucifixion, burial, and resurrection. It is steeped in profound religious significance. The church's construction dates back to the 4th century under the patronage of Emperor Constantine's mother, Saint Helena. Over the centuries, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre has been a beacon for Christian pilgrims from all corners of the globe, drawn by the spiritual magnetism of walking in the footsteps of Jesus Christ. Yet the religious tapestry of Palestine isn't woven by a single thread. The town of Bethlehem, nestled in the hill country of Judah, is home to another monumental landmark, the Church of the Nativity. This ancient basilica, one of the oldest continuously operating churches in the world, is believed to mark the birthplace of Jesus Christ. Constructed over the grotto that tradition marks as Jesus' birthplace, the Church of the Nativity is a testament to the enduring faith and devotion of its builders, who, in the 4th century, sought to commemorate the humble beginnings of a figure who would change the course of history. This church, with its serene simplicity and profound spiritual significance, draws believers from around the world, especially during the Christmas season, offering a unique opportunity to connect with the roots of their faith. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre and the Church of the Nativity, each with their distinctive historical and religious significance, are more than just places of worship. They are living embodiments of Palestine's rich historical tapestry, interwoven with threads of faith, resilience, and devotion. They stand as silent witnesses to the passage of time, preserving the spiritual heritage of the land and its people. These landmarks not only represent religious faith, but also the rich history of Palestine. Now, let's turn the pages to the period of British occupation. As the Ottoman Empire crumbled during World War I, Britain saw an opportunity to extend its influence in the Middle East. The year 1917 marked the beginning of British rule in Palestine, leading to profound changes in the social, economic, and political landscape of the region. The British promised to establish a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine through the Balfour Declaration. This promise, coupled with the allowance of Jewish immigration, drastically altered the demographic balance. As the Jewish population rose, so did tensions between the Jewish immigrants and the Arab Palestinians. Economically, the British introduced modern infrastructure and institutions. Roads, railways, and ports were developed, linking Palestine more closely to the outside world. The establishment of a modern educational system and health services also marked significant progress. However, the benefits of these developments were not evenly distributed, often favoring the Jewish immigrants over the Arab Palestinians. Politically, the British ruled through a mandated system, maintaining control while promising eventual independence. This system, however, led to a sense of political disillusionment among the Arab Palestinians, who felt their aspirations for self-determination were being ignored. The British response to the Arab Revolt of 1936 to 1939 further deepened this feeling of political marginalization. The British occupation also saw the rise of Zionist movements, which aimed to establish a Jewish state in Palestine. These movements gained momentum, leading to increased conflicts and laying the groundwork for the Israeli-Palestinian conflict that persists today. The British occupation ended in 1948, leaving behind a complex legacy. On one hand, it brought modern development and infrastructure. On the other, it sowed the seeds of discord that would later explode into a full-blown conflict. The British occupation marked a significant turning point in the history of Palestine. Fast forward to the present day, Palestine is under Israeli occupation. This period is marked by a complex and often contentious geopolitical situation. The Israeli occupation has had profound and far-reaching impacts on the daily lives of Palestinians, affecting everything from freedom of movement to access to basic resources. The roots of this occupation trace back to the mid-20th century. Following the end of the British mandate over Palestine, the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948 sparked a mass displacement of Palestinians, known as the Nakba or catastrophe. This resulted in an estimated 700,000 Palestinians fleeing or being expelled from their homes. Since then, the occupation has been characterized by ongoing conflict and sporadic peace negotiations. The West Bank and Gaza Strip, two regions with a significant Palestinian population, are perhaps the most emblematic of this struggle. They've been subjected to a complex system of Israeli military checkpoints, barriers, and settlements, which have resulted in a fragmented Palestinian territory. Yet amidst these challenging circumstances, the Palestinian people continue to endure. They persist in their struggle for self-determination, human rights, and a sovereign state. Their resilience is evident in their vibrant culture, their rich traditions, and their unwavering hope for a peaceful future. Despite all the challenges, the spirit of the Palestinian people
issuing a document that would shake the Middle East to its core, the Balfour Declaration. This short yet significant letter, penned by the British Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour to Lord Rothschild, a leader of the British Jewish community, declared Britain's support for a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. The Balfour Declaration wasn't just a piece of paper, it was a pivotal moment in history, a cornerstone in the creation of modern Israel. It was a commitment from one of the world's most powerful nations to the Zionist cause, a movement advocating for the re-establishment of a Jewish homeland in what was then Palestine. But what about the Palestinians who called this land home? The Balfour Declaration ignited their fury, deepening their resentment towards British colonial rule. It spurred a rise in Palestinian resistance, marking the beginning of a protracted conflict. As the ink dried on the Balfour Declaration, the seeds of a long-lasting conflict were sown. But why did Britain support the establishment of a Jewish state in Palestine? The reasons were manifold. Firstly, Zionist pressure played a significant role. The Zionist movement, advocating for the re-establishment of a Jewish homeland in Palestine, wielded considerable influence in British politics. They promised Britain aid during the First World War in exchange for support of their cause. This created a symbiotic relationship, as both sides stood to gain from the arrangement. Secondly, Britain was guided by strategic interests. The Middle East was a region of great geopolitical importance, and supporting the Zionist cause provided Britain with a means to strengthen their influence in the region. By backing the creation of a Jewish state, Britain could ensure a friendly presence in an otherwise turbulent area. Thirdly, religious and cultural factors should not be overlooked. Britain had a vested interest in the religious and cultural affairs of the Jewish people. The creation of a Jewish state in Palestine offered an opportunity to garner global Jewish support. This support could be leveraged in a variety of ways, from diplomacy to economics, furthering Britain's global ambitions. Lastly, economic interests were also at play. The Jewish migration to Palestine promised economic development, particularly in infrastructure. This not only created a market for British goods, but also provided Britain with a more developed region to interact with economically. In conclusion, the reasons behind Britain's support for the establishment of a Jewish state in Palestine were multifaceted. It was not simply a matter of ideology or altruism, but a complex interplay of political, strategic, and economic factors. Each of these factors influenced Britain's policy in its own way, but together, they painted a picture of a nation pursuing its interests on the global stage. Britain's support was not a simple act of benevolence, but a calculated move driven by a mixture of political, strategic, and economic interests. Fast forward to 1948, and the result of Britain's policy becomes clear. A series of historic events influenced heavily by Britain's strategic and political interests were leading up to a monumental shift in the Middle East. The Zionist pressure, strategic interests, religious and cultural factors, and economic considerations that we've discussed earlier all played a part in crafting Britain's policy. The culmination of these factors facilitated the immigration of Jewish people into Palestine and fostered the development of infrastructure, setting the groundwork for a new state. The influence of Britain's policy was undeniable when, on May 14, 1948, the State of Israel was declared. The establishment of Israel was a direct outcome of Britain's intricate political maneuvering during its occupation of Palestine. Thus, Britain's role in Palestine during its occupation set the stage for the establishment of Israel, a development that continues to shape the Middle East today.
Have you ever wondered about the stories buried in the sands of time, the tales untold, the voices unheard? Let's delve into one such narrative, a tale of displacement and loss. Beginning in the late 1940s, in a land known as Palestine. In the heart of the Middle East, Palestine was home to a vibrant mix of cultures, religions, and ethnicities. But in 1948, a massive upheaval known as Al-Nakba, or the catastrophe, would forever alter the course of its history and its people. As the year unfolded, a wave of forced expulsions and displacement swept across the land. Palestinian families, who had called this place home for generations, found themselves uprooted. Driven from their villages and cities, they were propelled into a vortex of uncertainty and fear, their lives forever disrupted. Behind this mass displacement were Israeli forces and Zionist armed groups. Armed attacks, threats of violence, and fear tactics were used to drive hundreds of thousands of Palestinians from their homes. Their villages and towns, once bustling with life, were left in ruins, their echoes of laughter and joy replaced with the chilling silence of abandonment. Yet amidst the chaos and the fear, the spirit of the Palestinian people remained unbroken. Facing an uncertain future, they held on to their hopes and dreams, their memories, and their identity. Their resilience in the face of such adversity was a testament to their unwavering determination to survive and thrive. But the Nakba was just the beginning. A series of further conflicts and uprisings would continue to shape the fate of the Palestinian people in the decades to come. Each event, each uprising, each act of defiance would add another layer to the complex tapestry of their history and their struggle for freedom and justice. In the blink of an eye, a homeland was lost and a catastrophe unfolded. This is the story of the unseen catastrophe, a tale of loss, resilience, and the unyielding spirit of a people. But it's also a story that continues to unfold, echoing through the sands of time, waiting to be heard. As the sun rose on the 15th of May 1948, an era of displacement and despair dawned. It was a day that would be etched in the annals of history as Al-Nakba, or the catastrophe. A catastrophe that unfolded in the heartland of Palestine as hundreds of thousands of Palestinians faced a massive wave of displacement and expulsion. Their homes, their lands, their very lives were uprooted by Israeli forces and Zionist armed groups. The events of the Nakba were not confined to a single day, but rather spanned weeks and months. The forced expulsion of Palestinians was not just a sporadic act, but a systematic campaign. Men, women, and children were driven out of their villages and cities, their homes razed to the ground, their heritage erased. Armed attacks and threats of violence became a common sight as Israeli forces and Zionist armed groups sought to instill fear in the hearts of the Palestinian people. Their aim was simple: to empty Palestine of its indigenous inhabitants and establish an Israeli state in its place. The result was a dramatic demographic shift as Palestinians were forcibly displaced from their homes, their lands, and their country. Entire Palestinian villages and towns were wiped out from the map, their existence erased as if they had never been. From the coastal city of Jaffa, known for its oranges, to the mountainous village of Deir Yassin, the echoes of laughter and the scent of home-cooked meals were replaced with the deafening silence of empty homes and deserted streets. But in the face of such adversity, the Palestinians' resolve only strengthened. The Nakba was not just a period of loss and despair, but also a testament to the resilience and determination of the Palestinian people. Their struggle for justice, for their homeland, for their very existence continues to this day, a testament to their indomitable spirit. In the face of such adversity, the Palestinians' resolve only strengthened. In the face of occupation, the stones echoed the voices of resistance. As the 1980s dawned, a new chapter in the history of Palestinian resistance unfolded, known as the Stone Intifada. This wasn't a classic war of soldiers and guns, but rather a popular uprising against the Israeli occupation, a David versus Goliath scenario, with stones as the weapon of choice. The term intifada itself means shaking off in Arabic, and this was precisely the goal of the young Palestinians who rose up against the Israeli forces. They sought to shake off the shackles of occupation, to reclaim their land and their dignity. These were ordinary youths, not armed militias, who had grown up under the shadow of occupation and decided it was time to stand up against their oppressors. The stone, a simple, ubiquitous object, became a potent symbol of resistance. It was more than just a missile hurled at an armored vehicle or a soldier. It was a statement, a declaration of steadfastness and resilience. It was the voice of a people saying, "We are here, we will not be silenced, we will not be erased." The Stone Intifada was a grassroots movement, spontaneous and largely unorganized. It was driven by a collective sense of injustice and a desire for freedom. It was a battle fought in the streets, in the alleyways, in the fields, and in the hearts of the Palestinian people. It was a battle that saw many casualties, many sacrifices, and many acts of heroism. The Stone Intifada was not only a physical confrontation with the Israeli forces, but also a battle of narratives. It was about asserting the Palestinian identity, about telling their story to the world, about challenging the dominant narrative of the mighty occupier. It was about reclaiming their place in history, their right to their land, and their right to self-determination. Despite its limitations and the overwhelming odds, the Stone Intifada managed to shift the balance, to shake the foundations of the occupation, and to remind the world of the Palestinian struggle. The stones may have been small, but their message was clear and powerful. The new millennium brought a new wave of resistance, a new intifada. As the calendar turned to the 2000s, the Al-Aqsa Intifada emerged as a significant chapter in the Palestinian resistance against Israeli occupation. This uprising, named after the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, one of the holiest sites in Islam, ignited after a controversial visit by the then Israeli leader to the mosque. This act was seen as a provocation by Palestinians, leading to a fresh wave of violence and clashes between Palestinians and Israelis. The Al-Aqsa Intifada was characterized by an escalation in violence, unlike anything seen before. It saw an increase in suicide bombings and attacks by Palestinian militants, resulting in a high number of casualties among Israeli civilians. On the other side, the Israeli military's response was equally fierce, leading to a significant number of Palestinian casualties. But what led to this escalation? The roots of the Al-Aqsa Intifada can be traced back to the failure of the peace process in the late 1990s. The Oslo Accords, signed in the mid-90s, promised a peaceful resolution and the establishment of a Palestinian state. However, when these promises remained unfulfilled, frustration and anger among Palestinians grew, leading to the outbreak of the Second Intifada. The effects of the Al-Aqsa Intifada were far-reaching. The violence and instability led to a decline in the Palestinian economy, increased unemployment, and widespread poverty. On a broader level, the Intifada further strained relations between Israelis and Palestinians, making the possibility of peace seem even more elusive. Yet, despite the hardship and suffering, the Al-Aqsa Intifada also symbolized the resilience and steadfastness of the Palestinian people. It was a clear message that they would continue to resist, to fight for their rights, their land, and their freedom. The Al-Aqsa Intifada marked a new chapter in the struggle for freedom. This uprising brought the world's attention back to the Palestinian cause, reminding everyone that the struggle for justice and self-determination was far from over. It was a stark reminder that the road to peace is long and fraught with challenges, but the spirit of resistance and the hope for freedom remains undiminished. In the shadows of the Intifadas lay tales of horror and despair, tales that echo through time, narrating a chilling chronicle of violence and displacement. Amidst this turmoil, the Deir Yassin massacre stands as a dark testament to the atrocities committed. In 1948, Deir Yassin, a peaceful Palestinian village, was attacked by Israeli forces and Zionist armed groups. The attack was brutal and unforgiving, sparing neither women nor children. Hundreds of innocent lives were extinguished that fateful day, their dreams and hopes buried under the rubble of their homes. The massacre was part of a larger, sinister policy of suppression and ethnic cleansing, aimed at achieving displacement and political goals. Fast forward to 1982, in the heart of Lebanon, another massacre unfolded, Sabra and Shatila. These refugee camps, home to thousands of displaced Palestinians, were besieged by Israeli forces and Lebanese militias allied with them. The ensuing days witnessed a horrific bloodbath, with countless Palestinians losing their lives. The world watched in silence as the cries of the innocent echoed into oblivion. These massacres are not mere footnotes in history. They are stark reminders of the immense suffering endured by the Palestinian people. Each tale of horror is a testament to their resilience, each cry a call to remember, each life lost a plea for justice. Yet, amidst the despair, the spirit of the Palestinian people remains unbroken. Through each wave of displacement, each act of violence, they've held on to their identity, their heritage, and their dreams of a free Palestine. Their resistance persists, fueled by the memory of their lost homes and a hope for a better future. Though the path was fraught with peril, the spirit of resistance continued to burn bright. Even as the sun sets on these tales of horror, it rises again on the enduring spirit of a people who refuse to be silenced, who continue to dream, and who will never stop fighting deep. To comprehend the events of Al-Nakba and the subsequent uprisings, one must first understand the conflict's history. As we delve into the past, we find ourselves in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. This was a time when the Zionist movement began to gain momentum. This political movement was based on the belief that Jews, dispersed across the globe, deserved a national homeland in the territory defined as the historic Land of Israel. This idea, however, was not without controversy, especially among the indigenous Palestinian Arab population who had inhabited these lands for centuries. Fast forward to 1917, and we come across the Balfour Declaration. This was a public statement issued by the British government during World War I, promising support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. The declaration was controversial as it seemed to ignore the political rights of the Palestinians living there. In the aftermath of the Balfour Declaration, Britain was granted a mandate over Palestine by the League of Nations. From 1920 to 1948, Britain administered Palestine, a period marked by increased Jewish immigration, rising tensions, and violent confrontations between Jewish immigrants and the indigenous Palestinian population. In 1947, the United Nations proposed a partition plan to address the conflicting national aspirations of Jews and Arabs. The plan aimed to divide Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states, with Jerusalem under international administration. However, the plan was rejected by the Palestinians and the surrounding Arab states, who saw it as further infringement on their rights. This historical backdrop sets the stage for the pivotal event known as Al-Nakba. 1948 marks a year of profound loss for Palestinians. They remember it as Al-Nakba, or the catastrophe. This was the year when the ground beneath their feet shifted, and their lives were changed forever. Al-Nakba isn't a single event. It's a series of incidents that led to a massive displacement and expulsion of Palestinians from their lands. This was the year when the State of Israel was declared, and the map of the Middle East was redrawn. The events leading up to Al-Nakba were a complex mix of political maneuvers, military operations, and human tragedies. The United Nations had proposed a partition plan, but it was rejected by Arab countries and Palestinians. They saw it as an infringement on their right to self-determination. This rejection led to a civil war that escalated into a full-blown conflict, with neighboring Arab countries joining the fray. The war that ensued was marked by fierce battles, strategic victories, and devastating losses. Palestinian villages were attacked, their inhabitants expelled or killed. Their homes were left in ruins, their lands confiscated. In a matter of months, more than 700,000 Palestinians had been displaced, their lives uprooted. They found themselves in refugee camps in neighboring countries, stripped of their properties, their livelihoods, and their dignity. The declaration of Israeli statehood in May 1948 was the final blow. It marked the official beginning of an era of displacement for Palestinians, an era that continues to this day. Al-Nakba is not a relic of the past. It is a continuing reality for many Palestinians. It is a reminder of the homes they lost, the lands they were forced to leave, and the life they once knew. The aftermath of Al-Nakba was equally devastating. Palestinians who remained in the newly formed State of Israel were subjected to martial law. Their movement was restricted, their properties were confiscated, and they were subjected to a system of inequality that persists to this day. But Al-Nakba also sparked a sense of unity and resistance among Palestinians. It was a painful reminder of their shared history, their collective struggle. It was a symbol of their resolve to reclaim their rights, to resist oppression, and to fight for justice. Al-Nakba is more than a historical event. It's a symbol of the Palestinian struggle, a memory that fuels their resistance. It's a testament to their resilience in the face of adversity, their unwavering hope for a future where they can return to their homes, reclaim their lands, and live in peace. It is a memory that is passed down from generation to generation, a memory that shapes their identity and their struggle for freedom, justice, and dignity. In the face of oppression, the Palestinian people have risen up in popular uprisings, known as intifadas. The word intifada originates from the Arabic term for shaking off, but in this context, it's come to symbolize much more than that. It's an embodiment of the Palestinian spirit of resistance, of their struggle against injustice, occupation, and settlement. First, let's travel back to the closing decades of the 20th century. The year was 1987, a period marked by intense political unrest. This was the era of the Stone Intifada. Sparked by decades of growing frustration, the Palestinians began to fight back. Their weapons? Not guns or bombs, but stones. Hence the name Stone Intifada. The Palestinian people, young and old, took to the streets, stones in hand, to challenge the might of the Israeli military. The Stone Intifada was not just about physical resistance, it was also a cultural and political rebellion. Palestinians began to assert their national identity in every way possible. They refused to work in Israeli establishments, boycotted Israeli products, and organized strikes. The Stone Intifada was a testament to the resilience of the Palestinian people, their determination to confront their oppressors, and their quest for self-determination. Fast forward to the dawn of the 21st century. The year is 2000. The world is ushering in a new millennium, but for the Palestinians, the struggle is far from over. This was the era of the Al-Aqsa Intifada. Named after the Al-Aqsa Mosque, one of the most sacred sites in Islam, this intifada was triggered by the visit of Ariel Sharon, the then Israeli opposition leader, to the Temple Mount, a site revered by both Muslims and Jews. The Al-Aqsa Intifada was a more militarized uprising compared to its predecessor. It was marked by suicide bombings, shootings, and Israeli military operations. The Intifada's toll was heavy, with thousands of lives lost on both sides. But it was also a period of immense bravery and sacrifice, as Palestinians continued to resist in the face of extreme adversity. The intifadas are more than just periods of violent conflict. They are phases in the long, arduous journey of the Palestinian people towards self-determination and justice. They are a testament to the unyielding spirit of a people who refuse to be silenced, who continue in every way possible to resist their oppressors. So when we think of the intifadas, let's remember not just the violence and the bloodshed, but also the courage, the resilience, and the indomitable spirit of the Palestinian people. For it is in these uprisings, these moments of defiance, that the true essence of the Palestinian struggle for freedom becomes apparent. The intifadas are a testament to the resilience and strength of the Palestinian people in their struggle for justice and freedom. In the span of just a few decades, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict has seen a series of dramatic and painful events. We've journeyed through these troubling waters, beginning with the historical context that set the stage for the conflict, moving on to the heartache of Al-Nakba, and finally, the fierce intifadas. Let's take a moment to revisit the significance of these events. Al-Nakba, translated as the catastrophe, marks a crucial turning point in the history of the Palestinian people. In the year of 1948, the declaration of Israeli statehood led to a mass displacement and expulsion of Palestinians from their homes. This event is not just a historical timestamp, but a profound memory of loss, etched deeply into the hearts of Palestinians, resonating in the Arab and Islamic world. Following this upheaval came the intifadas, the uprisings, symbolizing the spirit of rebellion against oppression. The Stone Intifada of the 80s and 90s and the Al-Aqsa Intifada at the dawn of the 21st century stand as potent reminders of the struggle against occupation and injustice. These movements were not mere acts of defiance, but manifestations of popular resistance, a testament to the unyielding spirit of the Palestinian people. The narrative of Al-Nakba and the Intifadas are not separate stories. Rather, they intertwine to form the larger tapestry of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. These events are not just footnotes in history, but remain central to the lived experiences and collective memory of Palestinians. They serve as powerful symbols of displacement, resistance, and the enduring pursuit of justice. In conclusion, it's crucial to understand the significance of Al-Nakba and the Intifadas in the context of the ongoing Palestinian-Israeli conflict. They're not simply events of the past, but remain poignant reminders of the struggle for justice and the quest for a homeland. While the conflict continues, the memory of Al-Nakba and the spirit of the Intifadas live on, shaping the narrative of resistance and the quest for justice.
What were the conditions that led to the second Intifada in Palestine? Imagine a pressure cooker. The heat rises, the steam builds, and if there's no release valve, eventually it bursts. This is a fitting metaphor for the onset of the second Intifada. At the heart of this uprising was an accumulation of Palestinian frustration due to deteriorating living conditions. Picture this: the daily struggle to find clean water, the lack of access to basic healthcare, the increasing poverty and unemployment rates. This was the reality for Palestinians living under the worsening Israeli blockade on the West Bank and Gaza Strip. But the blockade was not the only source of frustration. The Israeli occupation was also actively building settlements and implementing expansion policies at the expense of Palestinian territories. Imagine watching your home, your land being taken over piece by piece, with no regard for your rights or your history. The infringement on Palestinian territories was not only a physical encroachment, but also an emotional and psychological one. There was also a sense of disillusionment with the peace process. Palestinians had hoped that negotiations would lead to the establishment of an independent state. But when these aspirations were not realized, when the peace process seemed to be at a standstill, the frustration became too much to bear. The spark of the uprising was lit by these combined pressures: the deteriorating living conditions, the encroachment on Palestinian territories, and the failure of the peace process. It was a spark born out of a deep-seated desire for freedom, for recognition, for justice. The Palestinian people's aspirations for an independent state were not realized, leading to widespread frustration and the onset of the uprising. This was the spark that ignited the Second Intifada, a spark that would grow into a flame of resistance, forever changing the course of history in this region. The Second Intifada was not a conventional uprising. It had unique features that made it stand out. For starters, the uprising was marked by an extraordinary amount of popular resistance. This resistance took many forms, demonstrating the persistence and determination of the Palestinian people. Peaceful protests were a common sight, as were general strikes and demonstrations. These actions were a way for the people to express their dissatisfaction with the Israeli occupation and to demand their rights. But perhaps the most distinctive aspect of this resistance was the stone throwing. This act, as simple as it may seem, became a powerful symbol of defiance and rebellion. It was a way for the Palestinian people, especially the youth, to resist the heavily armed Israeli forces with the little they had. And speaking of youth, they played a pivotal role in the uprising. Palestinian youth, despite their age, took up the mantle of resistance and became a significant part of the protests and resistance efforts. Their courage and determination were nothing short of inspiring. They stood up against the Israeli forces, not out of hatred, but out of a desire for freedom and justice. Yet, this resistance was met with a harsh response from the Israeli side. Israeli attacks against the Palestinian protesters and resistance fighters escalated dramatically. The result was a tragic loss of life and a staggering number of injuries on the Palestinian side. This response, far from quelling the uprising, only served to fuel it further, as the Palestinian people continued to demand their rights. The uprising was a cry for freedom and justice, met with a severe response from the Israeli side. Yet, despite the violence and the hardships, the Palestinian people remained steadfast in their struggle. Their courage and resilience, their desire for freedom and justice, continue to resonate today, reminding us of the power of the human spirit in the face of adversity. In an era of digital communication, how did the media influence the course of the uprising? Media, the fourth pillar of democracy, has always been a powerful tool to shape public opinion, and the Second Intifada was no exception. When the uprising erupted in September 2000, media outlets around the globe turned their lenses towards the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The power of media lies in its ability to convey stories, to bring the unseen to the foreground, and to amplify voices that otherwise might be lost in the noise. During the Second Intifada, media outlets played a crucial role in relaying the events of the uprising to the world. They acted as a bridge between the Palestinian streets, filled with frustration and resistance, and the international community, often unaware of the everyday realities on the ground. Through images, articles, and live broadcasts, the media painted a vivid picture of the Palestinian struggle. They showcased the peaceful protests, the general strikes, the demonstrations, and even the stone-throwing incidents. They highlighted the widespread participation of Palestinian youth, who were not only on the front lines of the protests, but also bore the brunt of the harsh Israeli response. But the role of media extended beyond just reporting. The media coverage of the Second Intifada increased international pressure on Israel to cease violations. The stories and images that media outlets relayed to the world brought attention to the plight of the Palestinian people and forced international actors to reconsider their stance on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Media outlets became a platform for the Palestinian people, amplifying their voices and their struggle for rights and recognition. The significance of the media during the uprising was not just in the stories they told, but in the change they prompted and the global conversation they sparked. The media played a significant role in amplifying the voices of the Palestinian people during the uprising. What happens after an uprising? What were the lasting impacts of the Second Intifada? As the dust settled, it became clear that the Second Intifada had left indelible marks on the Palestinian landscape. Firstly, the uprising had a profound impact on Palestinian life. The harsh Israeli response to the protests resulted in a significant loss of life and injuries. Hundreds of Palestinians died, and thousands were injured. This loss was felt deeply within the community, creating a generation marked by pain, loss, and trauma. Moreover, the Intifada led to a dramatic shift in the political dynamics of the region. The frustrations and aspirations that fueled the uprising did not disappear with its decline. They continued to simmer beneath the surface, affecting the political landscape and shaping the discourse around the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The failure of the peace process and the continued occupation of Palestinian territories became central issues that continue to define the political situation in the region. The uprising also resulted in a shift in international perspectives on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The media's role in conveying the events of the uprising led to increased international pressure on Israel. This shift in global opinion has had lasting effects on Israel's international relations and has influenced the discourse around the conflict on a global scale. On a social level, the uprising marked a significant moment of youth participation in resistance. The young Palestinians who took to the streets throwing stones and participating in protests became a symbol of defiance and resilience. This has had a lasting impact on Palestinian society, shaping a generation defined by its resistance and determination. Finally, the economic consequences of the uprising were severe. The Israeli blockade on the West Bank and Gaza Strip worsened, leading to further deterioration in living conditions for Palestinians. This economic hardship, coupled with the physical and emotional toll of the uprising, has had long-lasting effects on the quality of life for Palestinians. Despite its decline over time, the ripple effects of the uprising can still be felt today. The Second Intifada may have ended, but its impact continues to shape the political, social, and economic realities in the region. The Second Intifada was a significant event in the history of the Palestinian struggle. This uprising, ignited by years of accumulated Palestinian frustration due to deteriorating living conditions, the worsening Israeli blockade on the West Bank and Gaza Strip, and the continued Israeli occupation, was a tinderbox waiting to explode. The ceaseless building of settlements and expansion policies at the expense of Palestinian territories were the sparks that ignited the flame. The hopes and aspirations of the Palestinian people for an independent state were crushed, leading to widespread popular frustration. What set the Second Intifada apart was its distinctive features. It was a popular resistance movement that employed a variety of methods, from peaceful protests and general strikes to demonstrations and stone throwing at Israeli soldiers. The uprising was characterized by the significant participation of Palestinian youth, who formed a hefty portion of the protesters and resistance fighters. Their voices echoed through the streets, their actions reverberating around the world. However, the uprising was met with a harsh Israeli response. The escalation of Israeli attacks resulted in hundreds of Palestinian deaths and thousands of injuries. The brutality of the response only served to highlight the resilience and determination of the Palestinian people. The media played a crucial role in this uprising. They were the eyes and ears of the world, conveying the events of the uprising and increasing international pressure on Israel to cease violations. Through their lenses, the world was able to witness the reality of the situation. The Palestinian uprising persisted for years, leaving deep impacts on Palestinian life. Despite its decline over time, its effects continue to echo in the political and social situation in the region. The Second Intifada was more than an uprising. It was a testament to the enduring spirit of the Palestinian people. The Second Intifada is a reminder of the enduring spirit of the Palestinian people and their
daily life
ongoing
of a
struggle
nation.
for freedom and
In
justice.
Palestine, this is a reality faced every day. The Israeli occupation of Palestine is a complex and multifaceted issue that permeates every aspect of daily life for Palestinians. This occupation, primarily affecting the West Bank and Gaza Strip, exerts strict control over the lives of Palestinians, restricting their movements, demolishing their homes, and leading to arbitrary arrests. Let's take a closer look at these issues. Movement restrictions are a major concern. Palestinians often find their ability to move freely, whether for work, education, or even healthcare, severely limited. This is due to a network of checkpoints and physical barriers that make even the most routine journeys a challenge. Next, we come to home demolitions. Imagine waking up one day to find that the house you've lived in all your life is slated for demolition. This is a grim reality for many Palestinians. Their homes are often destroyed under the pretext of not having the right permits, a process that is both discriminatory and disproportionately impacts Palestinians. Lastly, arbitrary arrests are another facet of the occupation. Palestinians, including children, are often detained without charge or trial. This practice not only infringes on their personal freedoms, but also disrupts family life and adds to the overall climate of fear and uncertainty. These actions of the Israeli occupation have a profound impact on the daily lives of Palestinians. They shape their realities, dictating where they can go, where they can live, and instilling a constant sense of insecurity. These are not just abstract political issues, but real, tangible challenges that Palestinians navigate every single day. But amidst these challenges, there is also resilience. Palestinians continue to live, work, study, and dream of a future where these restrictions no longer exist. They continue to resist, to hope, and to strive for justice and freedom. The Israeli occupation is a daily challenge for Palestinians, shaping their lives in profound ways. Imagine a nation divided within itself. This is another reality for Palestinians. In the heart of the Middle East, within the confines of the West Bank and Gaza, Palestinians grapple with a political landscape that is as rugged as the terrain itself. On this stage, two key actors play out a contentious drama: the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank and Hamas in Gaza. This political fragmentation is not just a matter of divergent ideologies. Rather, it's akin to a schism that cleaves through the very fabric of Palestinian society, creating a chasm that affects the unity and national solidarity of Palestinians. On one side of the divide, we have the Palestinian Authority. Established in the mid-90s as an interim self-governing body, it governs parts of the West Bank, aiming to establish a Palestinian state through diplomatic means. On the flip side, we find Hamas, an organization that emerged in the late 80s, ruling the Gaza Strip. It has a more militant stance and refuses to recognize Israel's right to exist. This internal division poses a significant challenge. It's like trying to row a boat where each oarsman is pulling in a different direction. Without unity, the journey towards national solidarity becomes significantly more arduous. The rift between the Palestinian Authority and Hamas is not just a political issue. It trickles down to everyday life, affecting everything from governance and security to infrastructure and public services. It's a division that Palestinians live and breathe every day, a constant reminder of a nation fragmented. Yet despite this internal division, there's a shared goal among Palestinians: the aspiration for self-determination, justice, and freedom. This common dream fuels their resilience, their ability to persevere against all odds. The political division among Palestinians is yet another obstacle they must navigate. But navigate they do, with the hope that unity can be achieved and a stronger Palestine can emerge from the shadows of division. Their journey is far from easy, but their resolve is unyielding. How does economic hardship compound the effects of political turmoil? For Palestinians, it's a harsh reality. Imagine living in a world where job opportunities are as scarce as water in a desert, where the economic growth rate is so low it's barely perceptible, and where poverty and unemployment are not just figures on a report, but a lived reality. This is the economic landscape that Palestinians navigate daily. Living under such harsh economic conditions significantly impacts their quality of life. It's not just about the struggle to put food on the table or to keep the lights on, it's about the constant stress and uncertainty that accompanies such instability. It's about parents not knowing if they'll be able to provide for their children's future, young adults unable to find work despite their qualifications, and families pushed further into the depths of poverty. The job market is particularly challenging. With a lack of opportunities, many Palestinians find themselves either unemployed or underemployed. And it's not for lack of trying or lack of skills. It's a systemic issue, a vicious cycle that's hard to break. As job opportunities remain elusive, the rate of unemployment continues to rise, further exacerbating the economic plight. Then there's the issue of low economic growth rates. When an economy isn't growing, it's stagnating. And a stagnant economy means no new jobs, no increase in wages, and no improvement in living standards. It's like being stuck in quicksand. The more you struggle, the deeper you sink. Poverty, too, is a significant issue. With high unemployment rates and low economic growth, the poverty rate among Palestinians is alarmingly high. It's a cruel irony that in a land so rich in history and culture, so many of its people live in poverty. These economic conditions, intertwined with political issues, create a complex and challenging situation for Palestinians. But despite these hardships, Palestinians continue to strive for a better future, demonstrating resilience and determination in the face of adversity. What happens when basic human needs are not met? In Gaza, this is not a hypothetical question. Imagine living in a place where access to the simplest of necessities is restricted. This is the dire reality for Palestinians in Gaza, a place where the Israeli blockade has led to a severe humanitarian crisis. The blockade has affected every facet of life, from the availability of clean water and reliable electricity to the accessibility of essential healthcare. The lack of clean water is a ticking time bomb. It's not just about quenching thirst, but about preventing the spread of waterborne diseases. The majority of the water in Gaza is unfit for human consumption, which poses a serious health risk to the population, especially the vulnerable groups like children and the elderly. The electricity crisis is another immense challenge. Power cuts are a daily occurrence, disrupting not only the comfort of home life, but also essential services. Imagine hospitals trying to operate without reliable power, schools struggling to provide education in the dark, and families unable to cook, clean, or stay warm. Healthcare, a fundamental human right, is severely compromised in Gaza. The Israeli blockade restricts the entry of medical supplies, leaving hospitals and clinics under-equipped and overwhelmed. This, combined with the lack of consistent electricity, means that life-saving treatments and surgeries are often delayed or simply unavailable. These conditions have a profound human impact. They exacerbate poverty, hinder development, and strip away the dignity of those living under such circumstances. The people of Gaza are not just numbers or statistics in a report. They are individuals with dreams, aspirations, and the right to a decent life. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza is not just a story of suffering, but a testament to the resilience of the Palestinian people. Despite these harsh conditions, they persevere, demonstrating remarkable strength and resolve. However, resilience alone cannot solve the crisis. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza is a pressing issue that requires immediate attention and action. In the face of such challenges, how does the world respond? Let's delve into the international and humanitarian efforts aiding Palestinians. With the hardships Palestinians encounter daily, they heavily rely on international and humanitarian aid to meet their basic needs. This aid comes from a multitude of countries and international organizations, each playing a significant role in alleviating the burdens of the Palestinian people. In the international realm, countries such as Norway, Sweden, and Germany are among the top donors, providing considerable financial assistance. These nations not only contribute funds, but also engage in diplomatic efforts, advocating for the rights of Palestinians on the global stage. Simultaneously, the United Nations plays a pivotal role. The UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, also known as UNRWA, is a key player. Founded in 1949, UNRWA provides education, healthcare, social services, and emergency assistance to millions of registered Palestine refugees. Other international organizations like the International Committee of the Red Cross, Médecins Sans Frontières, and World Food Program also provide significant support. They offer essential services ranging from medical care to food security, striving to alleviate the harsh conditions Palestinians endure. But it's important to note that while these efforts are crucial, they are not a panacea. The aid provided eases some of the immediate hardships, but it does not address the root causes of the Palestinian plight. It's akin to applying a bandage to a deep wound. It helps, but it doesn't heal. This brings to light the necessity for comprehensive solutions that address the political, economic, and social factors contributing to the Palestinian situation. Strategies and negotiations that aim at establishing lasting peace, justice, and freedom are indispensable. While aid provides some relief, the complex challenges facing Palestinians require comprehensive solutions. The world's response to the Palestinian cause should not only be in the form of aid, but also in concerted efforts to address the underlying issues and create an environment where Palestinians can thrive. The situation in Palestine is complex, influenced by a multitude of factors. Let's recap what we've learned today. The Israeli occupation continues to impose stringent movement restrictions, home demolitions, and arbitrary arrests. The political fragmentation between the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank and Hamas in Gaza hinders unity and national solidarity. Economically, Palestinians grapple with job scarcity, low growth rates, and escalating poverty and unemployment. The humanitarian situation is also dire, with the Israeli blockade on Gaza affecting access to essential services like water, electricity, and healthcare. Despite these challenges, Palestinians heavily rely on international and humanitarian aid from countries and international organizations. But it's not just about survival. It's about the perseverance and the unwavering spirit of the Palestinian people in the face of adversity. In the face of adversity, Palestinians continue to persevere, striving towards justice and freedom. As we consider their situation, it's important to remember the resilience and strength of the
how it feels to live
Palestinian
under constant threat. Imagine, if you will, a place where military attacks are as recurrent as the rising sun, where basic amenities like water and electricity are luxuries, not rights. Picture the struggle of life amidst economic and humanitarian crises, compounded by political divisions. This is the stark reality of life in Gaza. Today, we delve into the crisis in Gaza, from its root causes to the current situation. To understand the current crisis, we must journey back to its origins. Our story begins in the tumultuous mid-20th century, with the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948. This event, seismic in its implications, would set the stage for decades of conflict and tension. The establishment of Israel was met with fierce resistance from neighboring Arab nations, culminating in the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. This war, marked by its intensity and devastation, resulted in a bitter divide that remains to this day. In the aftermath of the war, we see the first major displacement of Palestinians, a mass exodus that would come to be known as the Nakba, or catastrophe. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were uprooted from their homes, forced to seek refuge in neighboring countries and regions, including the small coastal enclave known as the Gaza Strip. Over time, the Gaza Strip, already struggling with the weight of its own population, became a pressure cooker of human suffering, its resources stretched thin by the influx of refugees. Here, the seeds of the current crisis were sown. The situation was further exacerbated by the Six-Day War in 1967, during which Israel seized control of the Gaza Strip. This marked a turning point, as it led to a protracted military occupation, characterized by stringent restrictions and recurrent military offensives. More importantly, it marked the beginning of the Israeli blockade, a suffocating stranglehold that has severely limited the movement of goods and people, and access to basic services such as water, electricity, and healthcare. Beneath the surface, a simmering economic crisis was brewing, fueled by job shortages, high poverty, and unemployment rates, as well as shortages in food, medicine, and basic humanitarian aid. The result? A humanitarian crisis of unprecedented proportions. Meanwhile, the political landscape was fracturing, with divisions between Fatah and Hamas further complicating the situation. This marked the start of a prolonged conflict, a conflict that continues to shape the lives of the people in Gaza today. Fast forward to the present, and Gaza is a region under siege. Recurrent military attacks by Israel, whether through airstrikes or ground operations, are a harsh reality for Gaza. The cost of these attacks is far more than just the immediate fear and loss. They result in civilian casualties, infrastructure destruction, and home demolitions. The echoes of explosions are not just sounds, they are the shattering of lives and dreams. Simultaneously, Israel has imposed a severe blockade on the Gaza Strip for years. This blockade is like a chokehold, affecting the movement of goods and people, turning Gaza into an open-air prison. Imagine not being able to access basic services such as water, electricity, and healthcare. It's a struggle that most of us can't fathom, yet for residents of Gaza, it's their everyday reality. Now, let's add a layer to this already grim picture. Gaza is in the throes of a difficult economic and humanitarian crisis. Job shortages, high poverty and unemployment rates, shortages in food, medicine, and basic humanitarian aid are part of the daily grind. The blockade has crippled Gaza's economy, and the people are paying the price. The world watches as the human potential of Gaza is wasted in a cycle of deprivation and despair. And as if all of this wasn't enough, the political divisions between Fatah and Hamas further complicate the situation. These divisions make it more challenging to reach comprehensive solutions to the crisis, adding another layer of complexity to an already intricate and distressing situation. So, you see, the residents of Gaza are living in a difficult and complex situation that echoes far beyond their borders. It's a situation that calls for a concerted international effort to alleviate their suffering and seek political and humanitarian solutions. The impact of these conditions is immeasurable, causing immense suffering for the residents of Gaza. The crisis in Gaza is further complicated by internal divisions. At the heart of this division are two main Palestinian political factions, Fatah and Hamas. Fatah, recognized internationally, governs the West Bank, while Hamas, often seen as a militant group, controls the Gaza Strip. This division isn't just geographical, but ideological too, with both factions having contrasting visions for the Palestinian future. This political discord has led to an unstable governance in Gaza, affecting all aspects of life, from security to public services. This disunity also hampers the peace process, as negotiations become tangled in the web of factional disputes and power struggles. In essence, the political division is not only a roadblock to unity among Palestinians, but also to the broader peace efforts in the region. This division only deepens the crisis, making comprehensive solutions even more elusive. The situation in Gaza may seem dire, but there is always something we can do. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the scale of the issues at hand, but remember, change often begins with small individual actions that collectively make a significant impact. Consider contributing to the humanitarian efforts underway. Many non-governmental organizations are doing vital work to provide essential services, from clean water to medical aid. Your generous donation, no matter the amount, could make a world of difference to a family in need. But it's not just about financial support. Advocacy is a powerful tool in the pursuit of peace. Start conversations about the crisis. Share reliable information with your networks. Use your voice to raise awareness about the plight of Gaza's residents. And don't underestimate the power of education. Understanding the complexities of the crisis is key to formulating effective solutions. So read up, educate yourself, and help others understand the reality on the ground. Lastly, keep the spirit of empathy and compassion alive. Remember, behind every statistic there's a human story. Let's not forget that. Remember, every effort counts, no matter how small. Together we can make a difference.